Hi there, and welcome to my channel that I am still calling Work in Progress. Some things are getting clearer. I do know definitely I want to be able to talk with others in conversations about what are the challenges that we've got right now in the world, the outer world, the inner world, etc. For those of us on a spiritual path, so to call it, definitely we're seeing quite a bit of, I don't even know what to call it. It's confusing what is going on out there. It's on some level like things we've never seen. On another level, there seems to be some clarity sometimes. But anyway, that's what I'm looking for with this channel, is to be able to talk with people just like you and me about how you're navigating this world at this time, as many of us believe that we are, as the human species, we're going through an evolution, and it's most one of the most challenging times for most of us. And so we really want to gather together instead of being split apart, which feels like really what has happened is there's been a real separation going on, where what we really need now is a real coming together and supporting one another through our challenges and through our life, as we're seeing these so many situations arise, not to mention the pandemic, right? So I'm going to remind everybody that now, and I'll do it again at the end of the video, is that my contact information, the link to my contact information is below. I really want to encourage anybody that's willing to share some of their challenges, their insights, their near-death experience, whatever has been going on for you. I'd like to have the conversation on Zoom, and so we can share with others. And the whole idea here is that we come together as a whole rather than separate, because I absolutely believe we have a lot more that we're alike, a lot more in common, one could say, but for sure we're more alike than we're not alike. We just have to find that thread that is in there for sure. So today, the last video that I did, I was talking about adversity, and kind of more around my life pattern theme, if you want to call it, has been around adversity. And I also, that video, I spoke about the guy that was the founder of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, I believe is his name, and I'd watched a documentary about him, and it's and I actually put it on the link, and I'll do it again, to that video on Amazon, or that documentary. Anyway, what I found quite amazing with this man is, one, he had tremendous adversity. I mean, here he had this goodness in his heart, one could say, to help other, what he called drunks, other people that struggled with this disease of alcoholism. And this was starting in the 1920s, late 20s, early 30s, I believe. And so there were plenty of people at the time struggling and suffering with what we now would call a disease of alcohol. And even though it was at the time of Prohibition, and maybe that even made it more of a problem, who knows. But to watch this documentary of how this man kind of navigated through these times of all the adversity was quite amazing. And what he basically happened is he discovered, in a couple of ways, I think basically had a major awakening, almost maybe similar to a near-death experience, where he got it. It was like all of a sudden he saw what was going on with his alcoholism, and from that point forward, stayed sober. So that was one piece of it, is that if you could keep, even though we have adversity in our life, not to give up. And he had plenty of challenges of his own. He suffered from deep depression and probably a lot of trauma from childhood, etc. But he didn't give up. And today, you know, AA is a very, I think, recommended and definitely a group that are looked upon as doing something very positive. So, and there's a lot of respect for that, for AA. So, however, the other thing that I wanted to talk about and share, because again, he was a prime example of this, the underlying factor that he did discover, and this was through work with other people like himself, and really mostly was interviewing and talking with what he called drunks. And what he finally got to, and this was on his own experience as well, is that basically he, Bill, was not in control in a sense, or was not able to actually make a commitment to stop drinking. He, what I would call the doer, he failed continuously. And this is what most alcoholics were trying to do. Or maybe they'd say, tonight I'm only going to have one drink, or tonight I'm going to have only 2 drinks, or whatever it is. Or getting so disturbed by their situation to make other goals, etc. And maybe a few of these goals lasted and maybe didn't. But it really relates to where we're at on our challenge today as spiritual seekers, I'll call it, is there is no doer here. There's a higher power, and you can call it whatever is right for you, the universe, God, spirit, whatever, higher self, and know that something is going on within you and through another power that is really in charge. There's basically no doer. And the doer that we think we are is the illusion or the ego. It's just a made-up character. And we do that because we come into this life forgetting completely who we are, which is a spirit. And there's a part of us that comes and enters the body, and we lose our memory is wiped out, and we get identified with this character that starts to develop from the time we're born and through our childhood for sure. Somebody said till about to 7 years old, we're pretty well formed in the sense of following particular beliefs and programming, etc., that we've received. But the bottom line for me, what I really got out of this, and it took me really a lot of, maybe even a week to kind of put this together, and then it hit me, was that this whole idea that I, Susie, is in charge of what I decide to do, or I make a goal, and then I'm attached and identified with this Susie. It's like, here we are, January 2023. So it tends to be a lot of people want to make New Year's resolutions at the beginning of the year. So it could be, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to lose so much weight. I'm going to do this in my business. I'm going to do whatever. It's improving something that we think needs improving, right? And we know that these New Year resolutions don't last. I mean, they may last a week or 2 or maybe even a month, but they're not coming from a place of, what do I want to call, of understanding. They're coming from a place of pushing and insisting. They're not coming from a place of surrender. They're not coming from that place of saying within, help me, blah, blah, whatever it is. And then accepting just accepting. So I think probably anybody listening to this video has definitely had these experiences that I'm talking about, where you make a resolution and you say, this is what I'm going to do, yada yada, no matter what, and then, I don't know, down the road, not very far down the road, all of a sudden it loses its oomph, it loses its, the desire is gone, or the desire's there but you're failing. So this is what I found so amazing, and I didn't really ever think of it this way about Alcohol Anonymous, about what this man really discovered and why it was so hard to sell. It was so hard to get through to these men and women that were having the problem, to really get them to get out of their own way, to recognize there is no doer that can do this. You have to literally surrender to an unseen higher power. And this was by no means put into a religious or church-type environment at all. What happened is this Bill Wilson really became enlightened. He got the, he figured out what life was really about. That we're just here to have an experience in a body. But there's just a part of us that's doing it. Really who we are, we're the observer. We're the observer of our life's experiences. And when we can sit in the observer position, just like we'd be watching a movie on Netflix or whatever, or in a movie theater, we are just the watcher of what's going on. And the movie's just happening in front of us. How is that happening? Because we are not the doer. We are not the person appears to be doing the character out here. That's a hard one to grasp, because it's so easy to get caught up. In fact, the entire world helps us get caught up in that character. If it's perhaps doing something in business, something competitive in sports, whatever it is, it looks like there's a doer called Susie or Bill or Jim or whoever out there doing it, but that's not what's going on. It's exactly like AA. There's a higher power. And then what our goal is to learn to listen to that higher power that will come through, will be your guide or guides that you can be talking to on an inner level, telepathically. You can do it through, I do a lot with automatic writing, and that's how they're speaking to me. And it's really by getting into an alignment with that part of you, that higher part, that higher self, let's call it, that's really running the show. That's who's running the show. The doer, this character is not. This character is really almost like a puppet. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's actually perfect the way it is. But when you can move outside of thinking that you are the doer, that you are the one in charge, that you're the one that's going to make it happen or fail, this is the game. I don't know what else to call it but a game. Now, even when you get this, like I have it intellectually, and probably a lot of people do, you have this, you understand it on the intellectual level. But then when you get back in the game, once you get pulled back in, you forget. And sometimes that happens around fearful things that are going on, or that we assume are fearful, where we just don't want to let go of control. The idea to surrender can be terrifying. It's like you're surrendering to something that's unseen. It's not the way this outer external world really helps us see things at all. It's quite the opposite. So what's happened for me, I guess really what is the bottom line of this message today, is how brilliant it is with AA, knowing that the higher power, they have to turn over every day they're drinking, I think, to the higher power. There's a constant mantra, if you will, or till it becomes a belief that you're not in charge, but a higher power is. And that's what you turn it over. You quit striving or trying or beating yourself up for what you didn't do or what you should have done. All the things we do, all the guilt that we carry around for things that maybe we think we did or didn't do. I'm not saying that that gives us, that releases us from responsibility at all. So, I mean, that's a whole other video to talk about our responsibility in this. But what I'm saying is that this idea of getting into the space of knowing that this character out here is not in control. Thank goodness, really. And that I'm going to call, for me, I call it the higher self or God or, whatever, but my higher self is the one that's running the show and should be running the show. And basically there's a part of my spirit here that's just wanting to experience this human experience, the senses that we have, the taste, the seeing, the hearing, experience those things without getting so caught up. In fact, we really shouldn't get caught up at all in all the story that we put with these things. It literally is and can be, I think, probably a very exciting or fulfilling life when we can actually totally surrender to our higher self and enjoy the ride, Just enjoy the ride. And that doesn't mean that we're going to have a perfect ride. There's going to be the ups and the downs and the sadness and the happiness and the joy and the not joy and all of those things. That's part of this experience, actually. That truly is part of this experience. So that's what I wanted to share. I highly recommend that you do take a look at this documentary about Bill Wilson if you're kind of grabbing on to what I'm saying about the letting go of this character out there and really realizing there's higher power running this. We just volunteered to come in and we're being allowed to experience the experiences as a body that we don't really have on the other side when we're not informed. So I'm really working with this since I've seen this documentary. I'm really starting to get the brilliance in that. I mean, every little nugget helps me get out of this idea that I'm in control or that I'm the doer. And I can get there for a while when things are going pretty well. But then I can fall back in. Like right now, today, we got our first day of literal sunshine, no rain, in about 2 weeks. And this is huge for me because I am a sunshine girl. I really need that sun. And I don't remember a time in California where we've gone so long. In fact, it's been longer than 2 weeks where we've had maybe a few hours of sun showing up occasionally. But 99% of the time, all we've seen is clouds and rain. Yes, we need the rain. We're in a terrible drought. But we didn't need it all at once. So anyway, so what's going to happen now, so what's making me a happy camper, is for at least the next week, whatever it is, the 10 days that they can forecast, is going to be sunshine. Cold weather at night, kind of not totally comfy in the day for me, weather-wise, but I'll take it. It's great. Really helps my disposition. So I thank my higher self for that. So I hope a lot of this, or any of it, made sense to you. I hope maybe it's helped someone out there. Really, that's always my goal, is to help someone maybe take a different view, look through a different lens, whatever it is. And consider this idea. And really, if you watch this documentary, it might inspire you as well, just like it inspired me, to really kind of look at this idea of a higher power from a different perspective. And wow, I mean, when you think about alcoholism, fortunately I've not had that problem, but I see it, I know it's got to be, it's a terrible disease, and it's a tough one to overcome, just like this is tough for us to learn who we really are. You know, that we're not our thoughts, we're not the doer. Who we really are is a highly spirited person having this human experience. And that could be delightful and divine if we can get it, right? So I think most of us are on this journey of really trying to get it. Obviously, there's people that have gotten it, but it's never ending. From anybody I talk to that I feel is really sincere and honest to themselves or within themselves, it's an ongoing journey. Just, you know, it's changing and shifting all the time. And just like I call this channel work in progress, and I think the other day I said, well, maybe it should always be work in progress, because otherwise it's stagnant, and that's not right either. So maybe this work in progress idea is perfect. Maybe that's how the AA was formed, was, you know, one day at a time, right? And not beating yourself up when you fall off the track, so to speak, because they never did that. When somebody failed and got back on got back to drinking, or, you know, gave into drinking at some point, and that's not the right word. I don't want to use that word. Erase it. Gave in is not the right word, but just you know, had some issue that caused them to get back into that thing of drinking, forgetting that they're not, you know, the higher power. But then they'd get back on that, right back on the track, because they'd be supported by the other members. And it's just such a beautiful way how we should really be dealing with each other, dealing with problems and issues, by allowing that imperfect, because we are imperfect. This has been a good one for me, really, because I have this perfection issue from childhood. So where imperfect is totally accepted. It's acceptable. No big deal. Just start again. So I hope I haven't just been rambling on here. Maybe I have, but like I said, I hope some of this has helped you. So if you have liked the video, please click like. I also hope you'll subscribe to the video. And next to the subscribe button, is that little doodad. If you click on that, it'll let you know when new videos are being posted. Also, love for you to leave a comment, and remind you that my contact information is below this video. I'd love to hear from you if you're willing to have a conversation about maybe something you've been through and you've been challenged with, but you've been able to navigate through it in certain ways, so that we can start sharing together. Again, I feel we're much more alike than we are different. So that's the goal of this right now, and we'll see you in the next video. I'll remind you, I have this little clicker thing that I click to turn it off, so sometimes you just see me going click, click, and then it finally clicks. So here we go.